I'm here at the Morgan Library where we are going to go on a deep dive of letter writing in Jane Austen's day. I'm here with Juliette Wells, who is Professor of Literary Studies at Goucher College and co-curator of this show, A Lively Mind, here at the Morgan Library. Juliette, thanks so much for having us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
You are a Jane Austen expert.
I suppose I am.
Right?
Yeah.
Juliette has written 3 books about Jane Austen, and particularly how we sort of experience her in the modern era, right?
Yes, I started by looking at fan behavior in the period post-1995, that big year when there were so many wonderful adaptations to television and film. And then that took me back into the history of Austen's readers and fans, especially in North America, beginning with her first publication.
What makes Jane Austen so popular still? What is it you think that has kept her relevant?
Oh, that is such a great question. And there is really no single answer. It is the magic that comes from her combination of humor and seriousness about serious subjects, as she would say it. She creates characters that are so recognizable to us, people who seem like members of our family, like friends of ours. It really is amazing that she did this more than 200 years ago, and we're still relishing her novels.
Well, I have some very particular questions that I would like to ask you because I have you here, specifically about letter writing.
Yes.
I have written letters since I was a little kid, and I haven't stopped. I actually make a living as a calligrapher. Letter writing to me is very relevant today because of the digital age we live in. And I would be really happy to look at some of the things in there, particularly Jane Austen's letters.
Let's do.
And to ask you some questions.
Absolutely.
Can you take us in and show us where some letters are?
Yeah.
Please.
The letters in this exhibition are easy to spot because, except for one, they're all framed this way. And this is not how Austen would have experienced this piece of paper, or the person reading the letter, the person to whom it was addressed, would have experienced this piece of paper. This is what a letter looks like when it lives in a museum or a library under the care of paper conservators. So what you're seeing on the right-hand side is the first page of Austen's writing. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is actually the fourth or the last page of her writing. So she started with a blank sheet, this size, this shape, and she folded it in half to make a booklet, basically, a one page, first page, second page, third page, fourth page booklet, and that's how she wrote on it. And if she discovered that she had more to say than would fit on page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, then she used techniques like some of the ones we see here. She looked for empty space anywhere and wrote more in it.
So does the letter starts here?
Yes, it starts,
We have?
My dear Cassandra.
Oh, okay.
That's Cassandra is her elder sister, and most of the letters from Jane Austen here at the Morgan are written to that sister. So somewhere up here, the place where she wrote it is at the very top, rolling, Thursday, 18th September, and then she left a nice space, and then the salutation started the letter. But then later she had more to say, so she came back and filled that in.
Because when I've looked at these before, they are indiscernible to me. I do not understand what I'm looking at because I would have started up here, and I'm like, oh, I can't even read this writing, and now I understand it's upside down.
Right. Yes. No, Jane Austen's handwriting is quite regular. So once you get acclimated to it, it's really quite easy to read. There is that confusing 18th century holdover. It looks like a long cursive S, but it's
an
right,
S.
the S.
Well, no, I could read all of this.
Yeah, but then you're like, what's going on with that?
It's this that throws me off because I wouldn't have known that she did that at the end, and because it's upside down.
Right.
I wouldn't know that.
Like when am I supposed to read that? Where does it come?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, so the reason that Jane Austen squeezed so much on a single piece of paper was postage. Before 1840, when there was a big postal reform and stamps came into use. Postage was charged outside of a city like London. If you were sending outside of London, your postage was charged according to the sheet of paper, so 2 sheets cost twice as much.
Okay.
And postage was also charged by distance. Jane Austen never had a lot of money. Cassandra never had a lot of money. And yet they wrote to each other all the time when they were apart. They were so very close. They just carried on their sisterly conversation in their letters. So Jane knew if she thought to herself, oh, I have a whole nother sheet of paper's worth of things to say to Cassandra, that Cassandra, as the recipient of the letter, would have to pay twice as much, because that's the other thing, the recipient paid the postage.
Really?
Until 1840.
Wow. Okay, so how
It's
does...
a totally different way of thinking.
So
Yeah.
if I'm Jane Austen,
Yes, you are.
I'm writing to my sister.
You are.
I'm conscious of how much she's going to have to pay for my letter.
Yes.
I conservatively use 1 sheet,
Yes.
fold it up,
Yes.
seal it, because there's no envelope, right?
There's no envelope. So what you see on the 4th page here,
Yes.
remember that's the 4th page. Jane Austen left herself space.
Here.
Yes. And then she used a little bit of that space too. What she says in her novels is that her characters write their letters, then they fold them closed, and then they write the address. So presumably she did the same thing. She left the space, but she would have written the address last.
Yes.
And these lines that you see here are the lines of her folding. So this letter is never going to be folded again. It's been conserved. It lives flat. But the folds that Jane Austen made are so precise, and the paper shows that experience, or shows that history. What's here is this little circle here is the remnant, not of sealing wax, but of what was called a wafer. Sealing wax was about twice as expensive. It had beeswax in it, and also shellac. And these little wafers were made out of cheaper materials. They had flour, they had a gum, they had color. And you bought them, you moistened them, and then you put the little sealing wafer between the 2 sheets of paper and you pressed. And then it held your letter secure.
Juliet, you don't know this because you don't know me, but they know how much of a sealing wax letter writing nerd I am.
Yes.
You are blowing my mind.
Wafers.
I never knew that.
And different colors of wafers.
What? So they would buy like a pack?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
What I've read is...
Why haven't I ever heard of these? I want some. They don't make them anymore, do they?
No, I mean, kind of like two-sided sticky tape, but no, not the same.
Really?
I think you could go into business. I think you could make Rajiv sealing wafers.
I think this is a great idea.
In a spectrum of colors.
I can sell them on RajivSurendra.com.
You can.
So they were like sealing wax.
They performed the same function.
Okay.
Of holding the edges of a letter closed. And different people folded their letters different ways. These folding lines allow us to make a photocopy, or print out from a digital image, I should say, and do our own folds along the same lines and rediscover how Jane Austen folded and tucked her letters closed, but not everybody did it the same way. Some people folded their letters in such a way that there were edges meeting, and then they put the wax seal over those edges. But it seems that Austen did a little bit of a more origami thing and did a fold and a tuck, and so her letters stayed closed by themselves. The wafer or the sealing wax, and she did sometimes also use sealing wax, that was more of a security thing. Like you could tell if someone had opened your letter, if the wafer, had come apart.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. Sealing wax functions as a protective thing, you have to break it.
Yes.
The same is the case for these wafers?
As far as I know, you would be able to tell if it had been disturbed.
So I write the letter,
you write your
fold
letter.
It up, address it, use a little sealing wafer of the color of my choice.
The color of your choice.
And then the postman comes to my house?
No.
On a horse?
No, probably not. Probably not. Again, Austen didn't write about her own experience sending letters to the post, but she did include that in her novels where it was important. So if you were staying with wealthy relations, you are Jane Austen now, you are staying with your wealthy brother, Edward. Edward has servants to do everything. So a servant would bring you letters and a servant would take your letters. And if there was a post office in a nearby town, that servant could be the family's courier back and forth, letters to the post office to be sent beyond, letters from the post office. Of course, that servant would have to be entrusted with money to take to the post office to pay for the letters. Recipients pay the postage.
Pay for the letters they're picking up.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you lived near enough a town or in a city, you could choose to walk yourself to the post office. And Jane Austen did that on some occasions. Her own letters show she loved walking. You know, it was an errand. If she had time, she might do that herself.
Wow, fascinating. So you never knew when you went to the post office how much money you were going to have to spend. Like if a lot of people wrote to me, then I have a bill.
It was a big day, yeah.
But then I have to pay for all of those.
It might also be the case that a wealthy family would have an account, keep a tab. I actually have not seen evidence of whether that's the case or not. But that is how things worked with a lot of tradespeople, quote unquote. So that might have been the case.
Fascinating. Now, I know of something else that's in this exhibit. I haven't seen it. I would love you to show this to us. Let's say Cassandra really is like scrounging this month. She needs to buy a new dress. I know I don't want to put any more burden on her with money and put 2 sheets of paper together.
And yet you have so much
to say. But I have so much more to say.
What are you going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yes. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the star of the Morgan's collection of 51 letters written by Jane Austen because it is just so visually appealing. So what we see here is that Jane Austen started off, my dear Cassandra, as usual, and started off in the way that she did. And I've had visitors ask me, how did she write in such straight lines? Did she draw lines for herself to guide herself? And I say, no, we know from Mansfield Park that when children are learning to write, part of learning handwriting, beyond learning to manage the quill and the ink and not make blots, part of learning handwriting is learning how to write evenly on a page without guidelines. So she had lots of experience. She was good at that. So she wrote her first page and her second page and her third page on the reverse and her fourth page. And you see that she used really every available inch of the fourth page because this blank part would have been folded behind. The letter would have ended up after folding the size of that rectangle with the address on it. And there needs to be space for a postmark. So she's used every millimeter. She's not done. So she comes back to the first page and she rotated the paper 90 degrees and she wrote across it. So this is sometimes called cross-hatching, cross-work, checker work. Those are all terms that were used. Clearly it made the letter hard to decipher. And a sister who knew your handwriting really well and wanted to hear what you had to say would have been motivated to take the extra time and the extra effort
like
to
you wouldn't
figure it
really
out.
write to a stranger this way, right?
Oh, heavens no. No. You would not write to a stranger. No, and I've been told you wouldn't use a sealing wafer for someone who you were trying to impress. You would use sealing wax because it was more expensive. And that was the kind of gracious.
Wow.
Yeah, between sisters, sealing wafer, no problem.
So she writes this way.
Yep.
Turns the page, writes this way.
Yep.
Fills in these parts, and then we don't see the back of this.
Well, she probably does this at the very end. She probably writes this whole page.
I see.
Thinking, oh, maybe I can get through all of the gossip and I don't need to crosshatch. Oh, whoops, I'm not done. I need to do it that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. You know, I think that it's very hard for us to relate to this because of this.
Oh, yeah.
But there are so many similarities. Like when people ask me, how are you able to write in straight lines evenly?
I say, I learned it and I practiced
yes.
it. Right.
And I say it's because I do it so often
right.
that it's second nature to me. And
right.
I say to them, how are you able to text with one thumb? Because to me,
that's
like
harder.
I see people going like this, and it's fascinating to me, but they do it so often, and they figured out how to do it, that they can do it.
It becomes second nature. Yeah.
And this is the thing that I think we can relate to the immediacy of like needing to get the message down and the urgency of it, but also knowing the person needs to be able to understand what we're saying. So autocorrect, for example, is something that has come up to help us with this.
Which it does until it doesn't.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You press send and you're like, that is not what I meant to say.
No, not at all.
Are there, in her letters, do you see examples of her editing herself? Like, does she cross things out, or like did she?
Very seldom. Let's walk over to this one. I don't think, no. So this is an example of the inside of the booklet, page 2, page 3.
Okay.
So you see here the paper conservator has filled in the gap where the paper tore or was cut away from
The wafer.
the wafer or the seal. But you can still see the lines of folding. I mean, the paper remembers where it was folded. And this one's interesting because even though it's flat, it's not completely flat. It still has a little bit of shape to it. You can see with the shadows around it, so that's interesting. But here's 2 full pages of Jane Austen's writing, and she has not crossed out a single word. When she was writing her fiction, when she was drafting her fiction, she created documents that look like this. These are opening pages from a novel that Jane Austen started but did not finish, which was much later published under the title The Watsons. And this is a work in progress draft. This is Jane Austen's creative process. She crosses things out. She squeezes things in. I mean, it's all, you can tell that she's thinking as she's writing, and she's gone back to the draft and corrected it. But writing a letter seems to have been a much more fluent process to her. However fast or slow she wrote, it gave her enough time to collect her ideas. And the other thing that's great about this letter here is that it has one of Jane Austen's rare surviving comments about letter writing. She writes in the very bottom corner here, "I have now attained the true art of letter writing, which we are always told is to express on paper exactly what one would say to the same person by word of mouth. I have been talking to you almost as fast as I could the whole of this letter." So that makes it sound like she wrote this as quickly as she could in readable penmanship and still didn't need to fix a thing.
That's amazing. Look at that hand.
It's so recognizable. It really is. And I say that, but Cassandra's handwriting was quite similar. And one of the questions that we open in a case nearby is, well, do you think this unsigned document is in Jane's handwriting or Cassandra's handwriting? Because we don't know. Scholars debate it.
Juliet, Jane Austen was not writing with a metal nib, was she?
No, certainly not.
This was a quill?
This is a quill.
This was a goose's quill that was cut. Did she cut her own quills?
I don't know. Good question.
So this is like diving deeper into this. I've written with a quill before.
Doesn't look like that when you do it.
Most of my writing is with these metal nibs that are late 19th century metal nibs.
Yeah.
But to achieve this, like the fineness of the writing, to have no blobs on the page. Do you know about the Marie Antoinette signature?
I think so, but...
So in the marriage record, there's a record book. The day that she got married to King Louis was the first time she was signing Et, because her name was Maria Antonia something something, and they tried to francophonize or whatever her name. So they changed it to Marie Antoinette, and it was the first time she was writing Antoinette. And above her ETTE, like near that area, there's a huge blob. And then the facing page, which is another document, echoes that blob because they shut the book while the ink was still wet. But that blob is an indication of the hesitation on the page or the fumbling.
Done this before.
Yeah. So when you're writing, you can't really stop or fumble. It has to be done confidently, and I know this from doing it. So it's even more impressive to look at this and understand what she was writing with. She was writing with a feather.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think if you look up close, which an exhibition like this allows anybody who's here to do, not just a scholar in a reading room, if you look up close, you can see where the letters get fainter.
Yes.
You can discern, oh, she probably dipped her pen again at that point. So it's not an absolutely even use of ink. It couldn't be.
Right.
But somebody who is experienced as she would have been able to manage that variation. And that was what you learned, part of what you learned too.
Right. You don't write until there's no ink left in the quill.
No.
You learn to dip to achieve the regularity in the darkness of the lettering, so that it's as uniform as possible. But you also know when you dip, there's certain things that you would do to the quill so that you don't have a blob on the page. Like you hold the quill to the edge of the inkwell to allow that first drop to go back into the inkwell, so there's not a puddle. Like there is a tiny bit of something right there, which is probably the ink being fresh from the ink pot.
Yeah. This is the only letter in the exhibition that we have framed this way so that you can read both sides, you can walk around it, so you can see for yourself, oh, first page, second page, third page, fourth page, Cassandra added another sheet. This is the letter that Cassandra wrote just 2 days after Jane died, wrote it to the sisters' favorite niece, Fanny, eldest daughter of their brother Edward, describing Jane Austen's failing health, her last days, her last hours, her passing, and describing Cassandra's grief and Christian consolation. So it's a beautiful letter. It's also a very important letter. Cassandra could add another sheet because Fanny's father was wealthy. No worries about going on to a separate page and adding more postage when you're sending it to this recipient. But what's wonderful about this is that on the first page here, you see how spaciously Cassandra has made her lines. She really doesn't think she's going to say a lot about this painful subject, her sister's death, page 1. Page 2, much the same spacing as on the first page, and much wider spacing than we've been seeing in Jane's letters to Cassandra. And then by page 3, Cassandra is shrinking those spaces. She thinks she probably has more and more to say, page 4, page 5. So when you read this letter transcribed into print, you lose all of that information about how it was written, where Cassandra, at what point she realized she had more to say, and the original document gives you all of that. The other thing that can be tricky when you look at photographs, digital images of letters from this period, is that libraries handle those differently. Some libraries will give you an image of each page, page 1, page 2, page 3, and you don't see the shape of the artifact, and you don't understand how those pages relate to each other. So the opportunity to see these in person or to handle well-made facsimiles of them really helps us understand so much more than just seeing a picture.
That is fascinating. I've often talked to people about the architecture of the page when a letter is being written. And the best letter writer that I know, a woman who turned 80 this year, Welsh, she has the ability to start with Dear Rajiv, and by the end of the page, very beautifully and poetically saying, and the birds are singing, and the kettle is boiling, I must go, I love you, Gigi. And it's at the bottom.
It's always just where it should be,
And I marvel at her ability to do that. And if she goes to the second page, she never stops halfway. It'll always end at the bottom of the second page. And I've said that even though Gigi and I have never talked about this, there is this unsettling thing about leaving half a page blank. It's almost as if to say, well, I guess I don't have anything else to say to you, so I'm going to stop here. And that subtlety is the art of letter writing, is how do you start and finish on and really maximize the architecture of the paper to make it this beautiful, wonderful thing that feels like it had a real beginning and an end, but that was born out of like thin air. And this is an example of that. She started up here and spaced out the lines so that she would come to the end nicely,
Yes.
and then realized, oh God, I think I need to go on, and then I've never ever seen this before.
It's so striking.
I wouldn't have recognized that. I wouldn't have recognized if you hadn't told me what this was, this shrinking of the lines. I would have thought it was poor technique. Like I would have thought, oh, she was just not good at.
Oh no, she was very good too.
Fascinating.
But she didn't need to squeeze anything in around.
Yeah.
At the end, she was done.
And this added aspect of sending this to a wealthy family,
Exactly.
and not having to worry about more paper. There's so much that we don't know looking back at the past if we're not educated. And this really is the honor of being with someone like you. It's like I'm eating a meal, a delicious meal, because I've looked at this stuff and I've wondered and I've been fascinated and inspired by it. I use sealing wax, I use this brown ink, I've used a quill, but to know the context in which these things were created it'll never go away in my head, and it just adds value to my practice now.
Yeah.
I also think that there's such a sort of a loss in the beauty of the handwritten word and what it conveys as an aesthetic thing over something that's digital. I mean, if this were sent as an email or a text.
Yeah, there's nothing. No mark of the hand.
But also her grief. You could probably see in the writing in certain places her grief. And the fact that this can be held and you know that it was done in a moment by her actual hand is my plea to everyone who contemplates writing a letter. Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Get the pen out. Get the paper out, especially if you're talking to someone about death, or you'd like to congratulate someone, or you'd like to thank somebody. It is so much more powerful when it comes from your actual hand through ink on paper, because you never ever know 200 years from now where that paper will sit. And maybe it won't be in a museum, but it might be in the hands of your descendants.
It might.
And it will mean something to someone.
I want to show you one more. It's this one. I said there was one letter that wasn't opened up and framed flat the same way, and it's this letter, which is only half a sheet, but you can see that it was folded up. Jane wrote it for a young niece, a different niece, not the favorite niece, a young niece who was 8 years old, and she did it as a puzzle. She wrote every word, she spelled every word backwards. So it starts YM, my, RAED, dear, YSSAC, Cassie. Cassie was her recipient. And it ends with your affectionate aunt, all reverse spelled ENAINETSUA, Netsua, being Austen, spelled backwards. And she wrote this in a period of her life when she was often in failing health, and we see this as such beautiful evidence of her playful spirit and her attachment to her nieces and nephews.
Wow.
And you can see that she's tried to make her handwriting a little bit more like print as well. It's not print, but it's the letter forms are larger. She's helping Cassie out.
Right.
Yes.
She's not crisscrossing.
No.
Juliette, thank you so much
you're
for your time today. I have a little gift for you, which
How
has
kind.
some historic significance.
Oh.
So this painting is a painting from 1801 commemorating the first geranium cultivated in America. It was painted
Fabulous.
by Rembrandt Peale of his
Rembrandt
brother
Peale.
Rubens. And
Aw.
a cutting of this original geranium made its way to Thomas Jefferson,
Okay.
and Monticello has kept that alive.
Fabulous.
And there's a cutting from that original plant for you,
Oh.
Pelargonium.
How
Now you have to
lovely.
open the next thing in there,
Okay.
which I made
You made it.
under the tutelage of my pottery mentor, Guy Wolfe, who is a big Jane Austen fan. He goes to sleep every night listening to Jane Austen. So Guy makes this pot from this painting.
He
and
does
he calls it
indeed.
the Peel pot,
And it's
and
got your name.
my name and Guy Wolf's name. And if you
2024.
turn it around, it has your name on it.
Oh my goodness.
So this is a
What
Juliette
treasure.
Wells
Geranium pot.
peel pot with a plant from 1801. And I don't think there could be anyone more worthy of that than the expert in Jane Austen. Juliette, thank you so much for having us today. Thank you to the 92nd Street Y, the 92Y for sponsoring this video. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's been a delight.
Thank you. This video was brought to you by Roundtable, the online classroom of 92NY, the 92nd Street Y. Juliette will be giving an online class at Roundtable in August 13th to the 27th. It's a 3-part course. So if you were fascinated by what you heard today, if you were intrigued, if you like Jane Austen, sign up for that course. It's going to be fantastic. Juliette knows everything. She knows everything about Jane Austen. Because guess where she went to school? She went to Yale. Twice. She's very, very smart. Thank you, goodbye.